Hello, everybody. We know that Allan Lichtman, the creator of the 13 Keys criterion and phenomena, is somebody who's been lauded as being some sort of oracle that's predicted every presidential election for decades in a row. And while that might seem pretty impressive, and if you were to extrapolate that to Super Bowl parlays, you'd be a millionaire easily. But it's just not the case. The guy was a charlatan. He got lucky in 2016, to be honest. His logic was imperfect. But we're seeing a man who's probably in his 70s just facing the reality that actually the thing you've built on for so long, your reputation, is in the gutter because you had Kamala winning and convincingly. This guy did not even have the sensibility to say, oh, Kamala might squeak this one out. Nope, nope. He just said confidently Kamala would win. Now let's see what the cope is on CNN.
Said, some unique features could break the patterns of history. And I think that's happened here. First of all, a unique feature specific to this election. And you've heard me say this before. I was very critical of the Democrats for openly and viciously trashing their sitting president right out in public. I have never.
Okay, so criticizing Joe Biden after poo-pooing the election, really, with its prospects, at the debate stage in June, I believe it was, is somehow the fault of the Democrats.
Seen that before, and I've studied politics since the founding, and we saw Biden's approval rating plummet as they were doing that. I think that extended beyond Biden to weaken any Democratic candidate since they're discrediting their own administration.
That's funny, Alan. So you're discrediting your own administration because the criticism at the time was that, hey, Joe, we like you, you've done a great job, but you're too old to keep going forward. Now, Alan Lichtman is now saying that doing that and being honest is discrediting the past 3 years of the Biden administration, which it really doesn't. Okay, for example, it's like saying, are you criticizing your 46-year-old Tom Brady? I mean, aren't you discrediting the 7 Super Bowls? It's like, no, we loved all of it, but okay, you have a noodle arm. You're 2015 Peyton Manning. And so you're not coasting to victory. You're dealt a bad hand. You don't have weapons. You're donezo. And so at this point, Biden was going to abject landslide territory against Trump, where he was going to lose in a big way. I'm still of the opinion that Joe Biden would have done worse than Kamala. Now, Joe has more charm. Yeah, I like Joe more than Kamala, but Joe was just so physically unfit for office that at that point, it just became clear that Democrats had to shove him out because his ego wouldn't let him quit into the quiet night. And so yes, Alan Lichtman, it's your fault. And if anything, Alan Lichtman was the guy that was a homer for Joe Biden in 2020. And so you supported a candidate that was already, what, like 78 years old running for president and was already kind of slipping. And you could throw, oh, but what about Donald Trump? He's the same age Joe was 4 years ago. Yes, but guess what? Donald Trump is not suffering from any sort of mental acuity. And in fact, if you look at a study done by doctors of both candidates in 2020, they've shown that Trump's median family age of death is way higher than average. A lot of his family members lived until their 90s, even a little bit over 100. We look at his dad, Fred Trump, lived until like 2005, and Donald was born like 58 years before that. So he has good genes to like stay alive for a long time and not have dementia. But Joe does not. He has crappy genetics. Okay, so it's just that simple.
Secondly, it rendered problematic one of my keys, the contest key, since we couldn't have a primary, but the Democrats did unite around Harris, and I turned the key in their favor, but we had never seen anything like that before, and that was problematic. But more importantly, are trends that are long-term and affect the long-term future of our democracy and the keys, because the keys depend upon a rational, pragmatic electorate deciding based on governance whether the incumbent party should get 4 more years.
Okay, so now he's blaming irrationality of the voter base. And he's saying, oh, but the democracy, you imbecile. You imbecile. You, oh my God, Trump won the popular vote. So his argument is that the majority of the people literally voted for Trump because they're irrational and they don't care about democracy. But if you're claiming the majority isn't capable of voting in the first place, that is an argument against democracy, folks. So he is in so many different layers of seething, coping, rationalizing, and also gaslighting tepidly. It's I love to see it. Honestly, I love it.
And we've seen the explosion of some trends that have existed before, but not to this extent. Disinformation. Elon Musk.
Okay, disinformation. The media that's liberally slanted controls the vast majority of information.
I don't know how many hundreds of billions he has. He has been the director of misinformation.
Just because Trump might have the one richest guy on the planet supporting him doesn't mean that there's not 25 other billionaires that have like 10 times what Elon has and is supporting Kamala, okay? You see what I'm saying, folks? And if Elon's money were that permanent of a fixture and that much of a big deal, then how was it that Kamala outspent Trump like 3-1? She ended up spending $1 billion and is in debt now, campaign-wise, in the tune of about $20 million. And so, how's that the case? Just to say, and to strawman it is like saying, oh, well, you got the 1 billionaire. It's like, yeah, and I wish we had 5 Elons because we could totally use it, folks. Come on.
2 billion views of his spreading of disinformation, not just about the economy, but about immigrants, about minorities. We've
Okay, now he's complaining about one guy tweeting, is the bottom line.
never seen disinformation at this scale.
What disinformation? Wait, oh my God. I'm about to have an aneurysm by proxy, but like, geez, man. What disinformation did Elon even post?
Next, we have never seen to this scale the agitation of 3 trends that have been very deeply embedded in American history: misogyny, racism, and xenophobia. The first anti
You haven't seen that in history? Hello? 1964, 1960, 1956, 52, 1864? What? Are we kidding? What? Rewind that. What?
of 3 trends that have been very deeply embedded in American history: misogyny, racism, and xenophobia. The first anti-immigrant law was 1798, and Donald Trump wants to revive it.
That's so facetious. And you complain about misinformation.
First it was the French, then the Germans, then the Jews, then the Mexicans.
When were Jews banned out of America?
Then the Muslims. There's always another.
The Muslims win. The Muslims win. You mean when he banned people from like Iran and like specific Arab countries? Not even half of them, by the way.
Of course, racism. We didn't even begin to dismantle Jim Crow until the 1960s, and it's still, to some extent, survived. Women.
What does that even have to do with anything? So now he's blaming Jim Crow from 60 years ago and Trump winning. Though what's funny about that is that Joe Biden won 4 years ago, closer to when Jim Crow was still in effect. So then how the hell did Biden overcome it? Is he just that much omnipresent, better of a politician than, let's say, Kamala Harris? I think Allan Lichtman is too much of a woke little sissy to even admit that. So
didn't vote until 1920. So that calls into.
What does that have to do? Okay, yeah, women couldn't vote 100 years ago, and immigrants that voted for Trump in droves, Mexicans, they couldn't have voted 10 years ago because they weren't citizens. Who cares?
And the whole premise behind the keys and behind our democracy.
Well, if it calls into question the premise of the keys, what about the fact that the pollster Nate Silver says that he used your keys to predict a Trump win?
Exactly. Yeah, if you use the keys, Trump actually won them. I think you need 7 out of 13, like a majority of the keys to win. And I think Trump had like 9 of them or something. If you were logical. Okay?
Nate Silver has been criticizing the keys since he attacked me for my correct prediction early of Obama's reelection in 2011. He has a vested interest in going against the keys because they put him out of business. And look what he did this year. This is typical Nate Silver. He says,
Democrat infighting. Yo, look at that screenshot. Sheesh. Yo, I'm screenshotting that. What like the video if you like my pause game, man. Holy.
Harris is marginally ahead. So the election is going to be, so close, 50-50. But it could go either way, with the swing states going one way to one candidate or the other. And he says, my gut favors Trump, but don't listen to my gut. So no matter what happens, Nate Silver can't be wrong, and he can't be right because his predictions are meaningless. I admit I was wrong.
See, Nate Silver is a hack, but he at least was smart enough to couch it. Okay? He couched it. And Allan Lichtman stuck his neck out, and it's now bouncing down the floor. The head is what I'm referring to.
Go out on a limb and tell you who's going to win or who's going to lose, and I don't try to
metaphorically.
And as we're having this discussion, I'm very squarely trying to consider why I went wrong, what it means for the future of our keys and the future of our democracy.
Given the fact that you talk about some of the disinformation, which seems to be the trajectory of a lot of things dealing with the democracy, do you intend, Professor Allan Lichtman, to change your keys or adjust to an additional, maybe a 14th one to adjust for that factor?
So, oh my God, think about the cope here.
I don't intend to change my keys on the fly. That's a recipe for disaster, particularly when these critiques come post hoc. It's very easy to say what you should do when you know the answer already. Much more difficult to do it in advance. And the keys go all the way back to 1860 in development and back to 1984 predictively. So I'm not going to very.
Okay, so he's saying his keys have been solid since like the Civil War, but yet this 2024 election had such a aberration and was such a different sort of fulcrum in history that gave you an electorate that was so profoundly different from 2020 that it made Trump win. And he's saying that based off of Elon Musk existing and being a boogeyman, and I don't know what the else. Now he's blaming misogyny and all, as if like things weren't more like socially conservative 4 years ago when Biden won, than it is now. Okay.
quickly change the keys based upon some critique that comes after they know what happened. But I'm very seriously going to reconsider. And I'm also wondering, are we going to have a free and fair election in 2028, which would render the keys?
Cope, already couching it. Now he's doing his Nate Silver impression. Well, I could be wrong, but the Republicans might steal it. Okay, yeah, poor puppy.
Irrelevant, but much more, threaten our democracy. That's up in the air.
Well, Monday morning quarterbacks, you're on notice from Allan Lichtman. Thank you so
That's him. What? Huh? Monday morning quarterback, dude. You're fired. You're off the team. You're cut. You're cut, bro. Cooked. He's cooked.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Well,
he's in so much
My
pain.
great pleasure.
Dude, that laugh was brutal. Yo, he looks crypt keeper alert. Join Biden in his vacation house and stay there. If we look at Allan Lichtman's Facebook, you'll notice that he had Harris winning 8 out of 13 keys with 8 true statements and 5 falses, which are pro-Trump, okay? Key 1, midterm gains. So the Republicans gaining the midterms. So 2, and again, these are supposed to be principles as to who's going to win, vaguely. Okay, key 2, no primary contest. Kamala won that. And you could argue, because obviously Kamala didn't even win a primary, but she should have had a primary. So it's a weird one. Okay, I'll give him that. Key 3, incumbent seeking re-election. Okay, false, pro-Trump. Now, interestingly, Kamala was not in the incumbent technically, but she basically was, because she was supposed to be working, at least, I don't know, she's probably lazy, so she didn't actually help Biden do anything. But she was a border czar. She was pretty hand in glove. Whether or not she wanted to be, that's where she was. And so, honestly, she might as well have been the incumbent. I think 97% of people would have said, okay, I'm blaming everything Joe does on Kamala too. And you could say it's technically a different person, but like, come on, man. It's like Don Jr. or Donald Trump Sr., okay? It's like, come on. Anyway, key 5, key 4, no third party. There was kind of a third party in RFK that was pretty significant. And so he gave that benefit to Kamala, which is interesting. Though RFK definitely did take away votes more so from Kamala, I think. You could argue it, though. Key 5, strong short-term economy. He gave that to the Democrats, which is BS. He could be saying unemployment's only at 4%. But frankly, folks, that's a fake number, number one. You exist in society. You go to Phoenix, Tucson, El Paso. All these places are worse off than when Trump was president in, let's say, 2019. Okay? Strong short-term economy. It's not like we were in a recession and we're doing a V-shape or going back up. Not true. Not true. The unemployment's low because they cooked the numbers. I mean, you look at the new jobs reports and it's looking awful. We had the port strike right before the election too, and that was a huge problem for the East Coast. And so short-term economy was not good by any means. You could say, oh, inflation's going down, but it's only going down insofar as like the rate of it is decreasing, but it's not where you want it to be already. It's already too damn high. I mean, it'd be like saying, well, I'm losing hair, but I'm losing it at a slower rate than before. It's like, well, you're still year over year more bald than you were last time, and so it's still an L. And then key 5 is already just so off base. Key 6, strong long-term economy. You gave that to Kamala. What the fuck? What? Wait, okay, so oh my God, look at the bias here. Okay, so you see this. You're giving her the benefit of not being the incumbent Joe Biden, but then you're also giving her credit for Joe Biden's long-term strength of economy. Well, how does that make sense? Well, because they're both the same party. Oh yeah, well guess what? They were also in the same administration. Hence why you cannot have your cake and eat it too, Allan. So again, the bias is that palpable. But then also, you keep in mind, when you look at the strong long-term economy, it was bad. It's been bad ever since Joe was in office, and it's only gotten worse, okay, frankly? There you go. So anyway, key 7, major policy change. Well, I would tell you that they've enacted major policy change. I'm not sure. Again, blue means positive for Kamala. I'm not sure you would count what the CHIPS Act, the America Rescue Plan. I don't think they've really had major policy change that's like that big of a deal. Call me a homer for Trump, call me a hater, but I just don't think they really did much. Though... Okay, so key 8, no social unrest. They give that a tacit Kamala W. Social unrest. I mean, you could go either way on this. Crime is up, but Allan wouldn't admit that. Obviously, you have the problem with the border. That's social unrest, in my opinion. But obviously, you could say, well, I'm talking about riots or a civil war. Okay, fine. Anyway, no scandal. Of course they've had scandals. He says true that, yeah, Kamala had no scandal. What the fuck are we talking about? It's all but scandal. or sorry, it is all scandal. But scandalous is my lack of verbiage here. But to be quite honest, Hunter Biden's laptop, Hunter Biden himself, him getting convicted as a felon. You like to use that against Trump. How about Hunter Biden? How about Joe Biden's salinity? How about the Afghanistan withdrawal? What about a lot of things? Kamala. Oh, but it's a different person. No, it's completely her fault too. In fact, there's a scandal in and of itself, and most middle Americans understand that if Kamala were really a productive vice president, that she was hanging out with Joe on a weekly basis at least, and knew damn well the guy was slipping and didn't say a word until that debate stage moment where he had this big foible, and then she seized upon it like the hyena she is. So yes, there's scandal. And to not say so was biased. Key 10, no foreign military failure. You give that to Trump. And so I guess he maybe conceded that the Democrats do have failures, but I'm not sure. Okay, so look at this. Look at this. This is a better illustration, okay? Better than the Facebook post. Thank you very much, Allan Lichtman. But anyway, so let's wrap up the video by looking at these final ones. So first and foremost, he gives no foreign/military failure. He gives that one to Trump because obviously Afghanistan was a debacle. So he concedes this. Though when you look at major foreign/military success, he gives that true to the incumbent administration. So he gives the key for this one to Kamala, which doesn't make sense because what military success have they really had? Ukraine? But what's the Ukraine cope? Like, oh, they have prevented Ukraine from being taken over? And it's like, well, I mean, certainly people are exhausted by that war, so it's not really a W. But even if that weren't the case, the W would be if they beat Russia. Or three, what if Trump were still in office and the war wouldn't have even freaking started? That's the truth. Anyhow, so already off base. How about charismatic incumbent? You give that false. So they won't say Kamala has charisma, so I'll give them that. But when you go to uncharismatic challenger, you also have Allan Lichtman declaring Trump as non-charismatic, which I think is a troubling prospect. You know, Trump is controversial. I'll concede that, but he has charisma. Now, it works both ways because he'll rub people the wrong way, but he certainly pleases the people that love him. And that's so important. And I think the charisma, and I'm young, so we use the term aura. I think his aura went up a lot when he survived the assassination attempt. And so, I mean, you go to the UFC videos and montages on Twitter, you'll see that people are loving him. You have John Jones, a big champion, giving the belt that he just won in that game or that match, I think yesterday, to Donald Trump and does the Trump dance. You see Brock Bowers, Nick Bosa, a ton of big football players doing the Trump dance at the end zone. I mean, the truth is, folks, is that he does have charisma, and it's kind of overwhelming the sensibilities of a lot of people. And so whereas in 2020 you could have seen the country being like 40% like really loving Trump and most people hating him. And then now I think it's more like 60-40 people like him. The polls might not show that, but the polls we know are fake. That we know they're fake. And so I think he is a charismatic incumbent. I mean, an example of an uncharismatic challenger would be Ron DeSantis, who has no aura. He doesn't have any sort of swag or anything. He just exists. Okay, so I think Trump should have been given the charismatic thing. And you might say, well, not everybody loves him like they did for Obama or JFK or something. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter. We're a stratified, polarized country. Trump, for a person that's a partisan Republican, is insanely popular. You can't convince me otherwise. In fact, he's such an enrapturing character, and this sounds kind of gay for me to say, but hatred really is a strong form of love. And what do the Democrats do but to hate on the guy incessantly every day? So yes, he is charismatic. Yes, he does capture people's attention. And yes, that's exactly why he won the election this time. So he literally gave her, in hindsight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 keys out of 13. Let me see which ones he got wrong. He got the economy ones wrong, so that's 2. Major policy change, you could say that was also wrong. No social unrest is very iffy. No scandal, he definitely got that one wrong. This last one he got wrong. This major military success was also wrong. In fact, I'd say he got like literally all but like 2 of them wrong, key-wise. Trump should have been given like 10 or 11 of the 13 keys. And you could say, oh, no primary contest or no third-party candidate. And those are all technicalities that don't even matter too much. So anyways, that's why the 13 keys were wrong, why Allan Lichtman needs to suffer, why he needs to retire, call it quits. You are 77 years old. Take a hint and follow Joe Biden back to Delaware or wherever you're from, okay? Go retire, buddy. It's over. I'll see y'all in the next one. Adios.